Have you ever wondered what happens when a man who has everything money can buy discovers that the most important person in his child's life is someone he barely noticed existed? What if I told you that this person earned only $3,200 a month to care for his $30 million mansion, but possessed something that all the money in the world couldn't purchase? Prepare yourself to hear the most touching story you've ever encountered about how true love can appear in the most unexpected places and completely transform the life of an entire family. James Mitchell was 47 years old when his perfect life began to crumble, and he had no idea that the solution to all his problems had been caring for his daughter for just 3 weeks. Owner of Mitchell Tech Industries, one of the largest technology investment firms on the East Coast, with a fortune valued at $2.8 billion, James lived in a $30 million mansion in the Hamptons. He drove a Bugatti Chiron that cost more than most people's houses and had everything money could buy. But there were 2 things in his life that not even his entire financial empire could solve. His 6-year-old daughter Emma, who since her mother's death 3 years earlier, had lived in profound sadness that no nanny could heal. James had already hired 27 different nannies in the past 3 years. Some lasted only a week, others managed at most 2 months. Emma simply rejected anyone who tried to take her mother's place. The child cried constantly, refused to eat, didn't want to play, and lived asking when mommy was coming back. James was desperate, working 18 hours a day to avoid having to deal with the pain of seeing his daughter withering from sadness. He spent a fortune on child psychologists, therapists, and even took Emma to London and Disneyland, thinking expensive trips would solve the problem. Nothing worked. It was on a rainy Monday in September that Maria Elena Valdez, 36 years old, rang the doorbell of James's mansion for the first time. She came through a domestic staffing agency and cost only $3,200 per month. James barely looked at her when he opened the door. Maria Elena was a simple woman, wearing a faded blue uniform, worn sneakers, and carrying an old bag with her personal items. She was thin, had her hair pulled back in a simple bun, and spoke softly with a slight Mexican accent. To James, she was just another temporary nanny, because he changed caregivers almost every month, always complaining that no one could properly care for his daughter. What James didn't know was that Maria Elena was also a mother. She had lost her only daughter in a car accident 5 years earlier, and since then lived alone in a small apartment in Queens, working as a nanny to pay rent and survive. Maria Elena had been a pediatrician for 12 years, graduated with honors from the University of Guadalajara Medical School. But after the tragedy that destroyed her life, she couldn't return to a hospital full of children who reminded her of her lost daughter. So she moved to New York, started working as a nanny, and lived each day trying to forget the terrible pain she carried in her chest. On that first day, James left for work at 6:30 in the morning and left Emma with Rebecca, the current nanny, who was the 27th attempt to find someone who could properly care for his daughter. Rebecca was a 45-year-old woman who earned $4,000 per month but treated Emma with professional coldness, more concerned about not letting her mess up the house than actually caring for her with love. Emma spent the day sad, sitting on the sofa, watching cartoons on television, eating crackers and crying softly whenever she remembered her mother. Maria Elena started by cleaning the living room, sweeping and mopping the marble floor, when she heard soft crying coming from the sofa. She looked over and saw Emma, the 6-year-old girl, curled up in the corner with tears streaming down her face. Rebecca was in the kitchen on the phone, complaining to a friend about how difficult it was to work in that house with a problematic child. Maria Elena felt her heart tighten seeing that scene. She remembered her own daughter, how she would get sad when she was sick or hurt, and without even realizing it, she dropped the mop on the floor and approached Emma. Emma looked at her with eyes swollen from crying so much, and Maria Elena asked softly, "What happened, my princess? Why are you crying?" Emma, who hadn't spoken to any nanny in months, looked at Maria Elena with curiosity. There was something different about this woman. Her voice was soft, her eyes were kind, and she seemed to genuinely care. Emma whispered, "I miss my mommy. She went to heaven and never came back." Maria Elena felt tears forming in her eyes. She sat on the sofa next to Emma and said, "I understand, sweetheart. I lost someone very special too. My little girl went to heaven when she was your age." Emma looked at Maria Elena with surprise. "You had a little girl like me?" Maria Elena nodded. "Yes, and you know what I discovered? That when people we love go to heaven, They send guardian angels to take care of us here on Earth. Maybe your mommy sent me to take care of you until you meet again." For the first time in months, Emma stopped crying. She looked at Maria Elena with hope in her eyes and asked, "Do you think mommy can see me from heaven?" Maria Elena smiled and said, "I'm sure she can. And I bet she's very proud of what a smart and beautiful girl you are." That first conversation was the beginning of something magical. Over the following days, while James worked obsessively and Rebecca maintained her cold distance, Maria Elena began creating a special bond with Emma. She used her knowledge of child psychology, disguised as games and activities. She created bedtime rituals where she told stories about little angels who watched over children from heaven. She taught Emma to draw letters to her mother that they would send by releasing balloons into the sky. She prepared special snacks and turned mealtime into fun adventures. Most importantly, Maria Elena never tried to replace Emma's mother. Instead, she honored Sarah's memory, talking about her with love and helping Emma understand that loving someone new didn't mean forgetting who came before. If you believe that sometimes God sends guardian angels disguised as ordinary people into our lives exactly when we need them most, leave a miracle in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel because Emma's story is just beginning, and what happens next will show you how love can truly heal even the deepest wounds. James began noticing changes in Emma after the second week. She was eating better, sleeping through the night without nightmares, and most surprisingly, she was talking again. Not just single words but complete sentences. She would run to the door when he came home from work, something she hadn't done since her mother's death. But James was too proud and emotionally distant to understand what was happening. He attributed Emma's improvement to time healing wounds, not realizing that Maria Elena was using advanced therapeutic techniques disguised as simple childcare. He barely acknowledged Maria Elena's presence, treating her like any other employee. What James didn't see were the small miracles happening every day. How Maria Elena would hold Emma during thunderstorms, teaching her breathing techniques to calm anxiety. How she helped Emma process grief through art therapy, letting her paint her feelings. How she gradually introduced the concept that it was okay to be happy again, that her mother would want her to smile. Maria Elena worked silently, asking for nothing in return, motivated only by the healing she felt in her own heart as she watched Emma slowly return to being a normal, happy child. But she knew she was walking a dangerous line. Every day she spent with Emma, she became more attached, and every night she went home to her small apartment, she cried, knowing that she was just another temporary employee who would eventually be replaced. The turning point came on a Thursday evening in October. James was in his home office on an important video conference with investors in Tokyo when a massive thunderstorm hit the Hamptons. The power went out and Emma, terrified of storms since her mother's death, had a severe panic attack. Rebecca, overwhelmed and untrained, called for Maria Elena desperately. "Maria Elena, come quickly. Something's wrong with Emma." Maria Elena rushed to Emma's room and found the child hyperventilating, shaking uncontrollably, and unable to catch her breath. Without hesitation, Maria Elena immediately began applying clinical techniques she had learned in medical school. She positioned Emma in a specific way to help her breathing, used pressure points to calm her nervous system, and spoke in a calm, clinical tone that she had used hundreds of times in emergency rooms. "Emma, sweetheart, listen to my voice. We're going to count together. Breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4, breathe out for 4. Your heart is strong, your body is safe, and I'm right here with you." As she spoke, she was monitoring Emma's pulse, checking her pupils for signs of more serious distress, and using medical terminology that Rebecca didn't understand. James, hearing the commotion, ended his call abruptly and rushed upstairs. When he reached Emma's room, he froze in the doorway. What he saw didn't make sense. Maria Elena was handling Emma's panic attack with the precision and knowledge of a trained medical professional. He heard her say to Rebecca, "Her respiratory rate is returning to normal, but we need to monitor for secondary anxiety responses. Keep the room temperature cool and ensure she stays hydrated." This wasn't the vocabulary of a typical nanny. This was medical expertise. Within 20 minutes, Emma was calm, breathing normally, and falling asleep in Maria Elena's arms. James waited until Emma was peaceful, then quietly gestured for Maria Elena to join him in the hallway. "We need to talk," he said. his voice a mixture of gratitude and confusion. In his study, James closed the door and looked at Maria Elena seriously. What you just did? That wasn't standard childcare. You handled that crisis like a medical professional. Who are you really? Maria Elena's heart raced. She had been so focused on helping Emma that she had exposed herself. With tears in her eyes, she made a decision that would change everything. Mr. Mitchell, my name is Dr. Maria Elena Valdez Rodriguez. I was the chief of pediatrics at Guadalajara Children's Hospital for 8 years before I came to the United States. James stared at her in shock. You're a doctor? Then why are you working as a nanny? Maria Elena took a deep breath and told him everything. About losing her daughter Sophia in a car accident 5 years ago. About how the grief destroyed her ability to work with sick children. About coming to America to start over but facing immigration complications that prevented her from practicing medicine. I lost my medical license here because of visa issues after Sophia died. I couldn't afford the legal fees to fight the bureaucracy, so I started working as a nanny. It was the only way I could still be around children without the responsibility of medical decisions that might remind me of failing to save my own daughter. James was speechless. Here was a highly trained pediatrician, one of the most qualified people in the world to care for his daughter, and she had been working for $3,200 a month because the system had failed her. Maria Elena, he said quietly, you haven't been just caring for Emma. You've been healing her. I can see the difference. She reminds me so much of Sophia, Maria Elena admitted. Same age, same spirit, same way of seeing the world. Helping Emma heal has been helping me heal too. But I know I'm just temporary here. You'll find someone more suitable soon. James looked at this remarkable woman and realized something that shocked him. He had been so focused on his business empire that he had failed to see the miracle happening in his own home. Maria Elena, you're not temporary. You're exactly what Emma needs. And honestly, I think you might be what I need too. The next few weeks transformed their household in ways James never expected. He began coming home earlier, not to check on Maria Elena's work, but to witness the magic she created with Emma every day. He watched her turn dinner preparation into science experiments, bedtime into storytelling adventures, and rainy days into indoor treasure hunts. But most importantly, he watched Emma laugh. Real genuine laughter for the first time since Sarah's death. He saw his daughter's personality returning, her curiosity, her sense of humor, her natural intelligence that had been buried under grief for 3 years. James also began to see Maria Elena differently. This wasn't just an employee. This was a woman of incredible strength, intelligence, and compassion who had sacrificed her career to heal his family. He started asking her opinion about Emma's education, her social development, her emotional needs. Maria Elena, he said one evening as they watched Emma play in the garden, I've been thinking about what you told me, about your medical license. Would you be interested in getting it back? Maria Elena looked at him with surprise. Mr. Mitchell, the legal fees alone would be more than I make in 5 years. It's impossible. Not if you have the right legal team, James said. I know immigration lawyers who specialize in medical professional licensing. If you're interested, I'd like to help you get back to practicing medicine. Maria Elena's eyes filled with tears. Why would you do that for me? James was quiet for a moment, then said something that surprised even him. Because Emma calls you Mama Maria, when she thinks I can't hear. And because for the first time since Sarah died, this house feels like a home instead of a museum. This is where Emma's story takes an incredible turn, and what James discovers about love, family, and second chances will absolutely amaze you. Make sure you're subscribed because what happens next proves that sometimes the most extraordinary gifts come from the most unexpected places. As autumn turned to winter, the relationship between James, Emma, and Maria Elena deepened into something none of them had expected. James found himself looking forward to coming home, not just to see Emma, but to hear about Maria Elena's day, her insights about child development, her gentle wisdom about healing and moving forward. Emma, meanwhile, was blossoming into the happy, confident child she had been before her mother's death. She was sleeping through the night, eating well, making friends at school, and most remarkably, she was talking about her mother Sarah with joy instead of desperate sadness. Mama Maria, Emma said one evening as Maria Elena helped her with homework, Do you think my mommy in heaven knows about you? Maria Elena smiled. What do you think, sweetheart? Emma considered this seriously. I think she picked you special to take care of me and Daddy. Because Daddy smiles now too. Out of the mouths of babes. Emma had noticed something that James himself was just beginning to understand. Maria Elena hadn't just healed Emma. She had begun healing him too. For 3 years, James had been running from his grief by burying himself in work. But watching Maria Elena help Emma process loss with such grace and wisdom was teaching him that healing was possible. James started the legal process to help Maria Elena regain her medical license, hiring the best immigration attorneys in New York. But more than that, he found himself confiding in her about his own struggles with guilt and grief. I blamed myself for Sarah's death, he admitted one night after Emma was asleep. She was coming home from a business trip that I had insisted she take. We had fought before she left because I was working too much, neglecting the family. The last thing I said to her was that her career mattered too, that she needed to focus on the client meeting instead of complaining about my schedule. Those were my last words to my wife. Maria Elena listened with the compassion of someone who understood devastating loss. Guilt is the heaviest burden we carry after loss, she said gently. I blamed myself for Sophia's accident too. If I had picked her up from school 5 minutes earlier, if I had taken a different route, if I had been a better mother who didn't work so many hospital shifts. But I learned something through my grief counseling, she continued. Guilt is love with nowhere to go. Your love for Sarah and my love for Sophia didn't die with them. We just need to find new ways to honor that love. James had never heard grief explained so beautifully. How do you honor Sophia's love? He asked. By helping Emma heal. By seeing Sophia's spirit in every child I care for. By believing that love multiplies when we share it. It doesn't diminish. Maria Elena paused, then added softly. And maybe by helping you understand that loving again doesn't betray the love you had before. Those words hung in the air between them. Unspoken feelings finally given voice. James realized that somewhere in the past months, his feelings for Maria Elena had grown beyond gratitude and respect. But the idea of moving forward felt like betraying Sarah's memory. Christmas was approaching, and James made a decision that would change everything. Instead of their usual elaborate party for business associates, he wanted a quiet Christmas at home, just the 3 of them. Emma, he said. What do you want for Christmas this year? Without hesitation, Emma said. I want Mama Maria to stay forever. And I want you to be happy like you used to be with Mommy. The simplicity and wisdom of his 6-year-old daughter took James's breath away. That night he called his lawyer about a different kind of legal matter. I want to explore the possibility of adopting Maria Elena as Emma's legal guardian, he said. Not just employment but family. His lawyer was confused. James, that's not typically how adoption works. You can't adopt an adult as a guardian for your own child. Then find another way, James said. Marriage, legal guardianship, family sponsorship. I don't care what it's called. I want Maria Elena to be Emma's legal second mother. And I want to be her family sponsor for citizenship. She's not just an employee anymore. She's family. The holidays brought unexpected joy to the Mitchell household. Maria Elena cooked traditional Mexican Christmas foods, alongside American favorites. Emma learned Spanish Christmas carols and taught Maria Elena English Christmas traditions. James found himself celebrating with genuine happiness for the first time in years. On Christmas morning, James had prepared a special surprise. Along with Emma's gifts, there was a beautifully wrapped envelope addressed to Maria Elena. Inside were legal documents that James's attorneys had worked on for weeks. Maria Elena, James said as Emma bounced excitedly beside them. I know you came here as an employee, but you've become so much more. These papers offer you 3 things. First, full legal sponsorship for American citizenship. Second, complete funding for your medical license restoration. And third, if you're willing, legal adoption as Emma's second mother. Maria Elena stared at the documents in shock, tears streaming down her face. Mr. Mitchell, I can't accept this. It's too much. Emma, not understanding the legal complexities but understanding the emotion, wrapped her arms around Maria Elena. Please say yes, Mama Maria. I want you to be my real mama too. James knelt down to their level. Maria Elena, I'm not asking you to replace Sarah. I'm asking you to join our family as it is, to help us build something new while honoring what came before. But what about your business reputation? Maria Elena asked. What will people think about a billionaire adopting his child's nanny? James smiled. Let me tell you something I've learned from a very wise 6-year-old. Love doesn't care about reputation. And family isn't defined by DNA. Maria Elena looked at Emma's hopeful face, then at James's sincere expression, and realized that sometimes miracles come disguised as impossible offers. Yes, she whispered, then louder. Yes, I want to be part of this family. Emma cheered. James smiled wider than he had in years. And in that moment, 3 broken hearts began to beat as one healing family. The legal processes took several months, but by spring Maria Elena Valdez had become Maria Elena Mitchell, Emma's legal second mother and James's. Well, that relationship was still evolving. They had become a family first, and romantic feelings, while present, were taking their natural time to develop. But the real test of their new family came in June, at the annual Mitchell Tech Industries Charity Gala. This was the social event of the year for New York's business elite, attended by CEOs, politicians, celebrities, and media. James had never brought Emma to business events, but this year felt different. I want Emma and Maria Elena to come with me, he announced to his assistant. This gala is about family foundations supporting children's hospitals. Who better to have with me than my daughter, and the woman who's dedicated her life to healing children. The night of the gala, Maria Elena was nervous. James, I don't belong at an event like this. I'm still getting used to being part of your family, but facing 400 of New York's most powerful people feels overwhelming. James took her hands gently. Maria Elena, you belong wherever we belong. You're not just attending as Emma's nanny. You're attending as Emma's mother and my family. Emma, excited to dress up and attend her first grown-up party, wore a beautiful dress and had her hair done specially for the occasion. She was proud to be going with both her parents, and she made sure everyone knew they were a family. The grand ballroom at the Plaza Hotel was magnificent, decorated with crystal chandeliers, white roses, and elegant lighting. As James, Maria Elena, and Emma entered, they drew attention. Everyone knew James Mitchell, but they were curious about the beautiful woman and adorable child with him. During cocktail hour, Emma charmed everyone she met, switching between English and Spanish, talking about her school, her artwork, and proudly introducing my daddy and my mama. Some guests seemed confused, knowing that James had been a widower, but Emma's natural confidence made it clear that this was her family. The evening's program included James giving a keynote speech about his foundation's work supporting children's medical care. As he approached the podium, Emma suddenly tugged on Maria Elena's dress. Mama Maria, I want to tell everyone about Daddy's foundation too. Maria Elena tried to gently discourage her. Sweetheart, this is Daddy's work event. He needs to give his speech to the grown-ups. But Emma had inherited her father's determination. But I want to help. I have important things to say too. James began his speech, talking about the importance of supporting pediatric medical research, and how his foundation had donated $50 million to children's hospitals across the country. The audience was politely attentive, but it was standard corporate charity speak. Then, unexpectedly, Emma broke free from Maria Elena's gentle hold and walked confidently toward the stage. 400 of New York's most powerful people watched in silence as a 6-year-old girl approached the podium. James, surprised but not wanting to embarrass Emma, knelt down to her level with the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, he said to the audience, it seems my daughter has something important to add. Emma took the microphone with the confidence of someone who had never learned to be intimidated by powerful people. Hi everyone. I'm Emma Mitchell, and I want to tell you about my family. The ballroom was completely silent. Maria Elena felt her heart racing, not knowing what Emma was about to say. James smiled encouragingly at his daughter, trusting her instincts. 3 years ago, my first mommy went to heaven, Emma said simply. Daddy and I were very sad for a long time. Daddy worked all the time because he was sad, and I didn't talk much because I missed Mommy. The audience was captivated by this little girl's honesty and poise. But then God sent us a special angel. Her name is Maria Elena, and she was sad too because her little girl went to heaven. But you know what she did? Emma paused dramatically, then pointed toward Maria Elena. She helped Daddy learn how to smile again. She helped me learn that missing my first mommy didn't mean I couldn't love my second mommy too. And she's going to be a doctor again and help lots of kids feel better. The audience was completely mesmerized. This wasn't what they expected at a corporate charity event. So when Daddy gives money to help sick kids, it's not just because he's rich. It's because we know what it feels like when families are broken. And we know how good it feels when love fixes them. Then Emma did something that shocked everyone. She ran to the edge of the stage, pointed directly at James, and said loudly into the microphone, "This is my daddy." Then she pointed at Maria Elena, who was standing with tears streaming down her face, and declared, "And this is my mom." The entire ballroom erupted in spontaneous applause. 400 sophisticated New Yorkers were on their feet, many wiping away tears, giving a standing ovation to a 6-year-old girl who had just given the most powerful speech about love and family that any of them had ever heard. James, overcome with emotion, picked up Emma and held her close. Then he took the microphone one more time. "Ladies and gentlemen, my daughter just reminded me of something important. Charity isn't about tax write-offs or social responsibility. It's about love in action." He looked directly at Maria Elena. 6 months ago, Maria Elena Valdez came into our lives as Emma's caregiver. Today she is Emma's legally adopted mother and the woman who taught us that families aren't just born. They're built by love, commitment, and choice. The audience was still applauding as James continued. "Tonight, I'm announcing that the Mitchell Foundation is donating an additional $100 million to create the Sarah and Sophia Memorial Children's Medical Center, named for Emma's first mother and Maria Elena's daughter, both of whom are watching over us from heaven." But James wasn't finished. "And I'm also announcing that Dr. Maria Elena Mitchell will be the chief of pediatrics at this new hospital, because sometimes the greatest medical expertise comes wrapped in the greatest love." The standing ovation continued for a full 5 minutes. When the applause finally died down, Emma took the microphone one last time and said, "Thank you for clapping for my family. Now can we have cake?" The entire ballroom burst into laughter and applause again. It was the most memorable charity gala in New York's social history, not because of the donations or the famous attendees, but because a 6-year-old girl had reminded everyone what really mattered. That night, as they rode home in the limousine, Emma fell asleep between James and Maria Elena, exhausted from her big evening. "I'm proud of you," James said to Maria Elena. "Tonight you became not just Emma's mother, but one of the most respected pediatricians in the city." Maria Elena smiled. "I'm proud of Emma. She has more wisdom in her little finger than most adults have in their entire bodies." James laughed. "She gets that from both her mothers." As they carried sleeping Emma into their home, James realized that this was what happiness felt like. Not the adrenaline rush of closing a billion-dollar deal, not the satisfaction of beating competitors, but the quiet joy of being part of a family built on love, loss, healing, and hope. 18 months later, Dr. Maria Elena Mitchell was indeed serving as chief of pediatrics at the Sarah and Sophia Memorial Children's Medical Center, the most advanced pediatric facility on the East Coast. Emma was thriving in school, completely bilingual, and had become the unofficial ambassador for the hospital, visiting young patients and bringing them drawings and stories. James had learned to balance his business empire with family time, never again missing bedtime stories, weekend adventures, or school events. The Mitchell Foundation had become one of the most respected charitable organizations in the country, focused specifically on supporting immigrant medical professionals and helping families heal from trauma. And Maria Elena had found something she thought she'd lost forever: the joy of practicing medicine. But more than that, she had discovered that love multiplies when shared, that families come in all forms, and that sometimes the greatest miracles happen when broken people help heal each other. Their house in the Hamptons was no longer a monument to wealth, but a true home filled with laughter, music, the aroma of Mexican and American cooking blending together, and the sound of Emma practicing piano while James and Maria Elena discussed their days. On quiet Sunday mornings, they would sit together in the garden that Maria Elena had planted, watching Emma play, and marveling at how their broken pieces had somehow fit together to create something beautiful and whole. "Do you think Sarah and Sophia would be proud of us?" Maria Elena asked one such morning. James smiled. "I think they sent you to us. And I think they're smiling, knowing that their love didn't end with their deaths, but multiplied into something even more beautiful." Emma ran over to them, dirty from playing in the garden, her face bright with joy. "Mama Maria, Daddy, look what I planted." She held up a small sunflower seedling. "It's going to grow big and tall and make lots of seeds so we can plant even more flowers." Maria Elena and James exchanged a look of perfect understanding. Love, like sunflowers, multiplies when planted with care, tended with devotion, and given room to grow. What started as a story of loss, grief, and impossible circumstances had become a testament to the power of love to heal, transform, and create miracles. James Mitchell, the billionaire who thought he had everything, discovered that his greatest fortune wasn't in his bank accounts, but in the family he never expected to find. And Maria Elena Valdez, the broken-hearted mother who thought her purpose died with her daughter, learned that healing others can heal yourself, and that sometimes the end of one dream is just the beginning of an even more beautiful one. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that love can triumph over loss, that families come in all forms, and that sometimes our greatest blessings come disguised as ordinary people, I want to hear from you. Share in the comments how this story made you feel. Subscribe to the channel for more incredible true stories of hope and healing, and remember that your own miracle might be just around the corner, waiting to transform your life in ways you never imagined. Because in the end, the only wealth that truly matters is the love we give and receive, and the families we build not just with our blood, but with our hearts.